To say hello. Hope everybody's having a great day. And let's talk about rats. And what a great way to start off the day. And I think it's a very uh, topical thing to talk about right now because I've noticed in a lot of the groups that I'm at, a lot of people are dealing with rats. And it's also good to refresh our memories about how these things operate, what they do, and kind of all the things that we deal with. So I'm going to be a little bit different in the aspect of how or the information I give because I'm not a biologist type and such, but I'm more on the inner working gears of how we deal with them practically when we're out there going through these attics or going around these houses and looking how things that we deal with every day. So I will talk a little bit about identification and such, but and one big thing is I've noticed and just recently some people dealing with both species of rats that we mainly have in Texas, which are the Norway rats and the roof rats. And there's some very easily identifiable differences between those two rats. So you know what to look for because you can find Norways in attics and you can find roof rats uh, around the ground also. So being able to quickly identify them is a good thing. So as we get going on this, where to start? So uh, you look at this and you think, oh my gosh! And Miss Jones says, I think I saw a rat in here, and what should I do about it? And first thing I want to do is say, let's have a garage sale, but it's something that the first thing we have to do is evaluate and see what's going on. But also, I want to point out that doing rodent control is is something that you really have to think about. Um, Getting into rodent control is not a simple process. It's something that roof rats are wildlife. They are a vertebrate animal, um, and they're wildlife are not insects. We know how to deal with roaches and ants and fleas and all of that, but they don't have thought patterns like wildlife does. When you do something to try to get rid of a rat, or you could say any other type of wildlife, sometimes they respond in different ways where insects have, uh, they don't think a like vertebrates or wildlife do. So you really have to think a little bit differently when it comes to rats and mice when we're trying to give controls for these different things. Just because you have some traps and some rat bait doesn't make you an expert. So, it's, I kind of compare that I can have a voltmeter and wire nuts and all that stuff, but it doesn't make me an electrician. I can have a pipe wrench and things like that, and I doesn't make me a plumber. So it's a deal that getting into rodent control, you really have to work at watching all the different things that you deal with and observe and kind of put it all together to figure out what is going on here and how you can fix it. Because I can tell you, usually when we come in behind what a homeowner has been doing, we're trying to fix what they have already messed up on. Probably one of the biggest things we deal with is, homeowners will put out traps. And of course, by the time they call you, they're probably trap shy. So one of the things that you have to think about is, if you're deciding to put out traps, what has the homeowner already done that might make your job a little bit harder? So one of the first things that is important is our communications with the customers. Our first point of contact is very important because what they tell you can be very important in the aspect of what you're looking at when you go into this. Find out what have they been doing, what are they hearing, what are they seeing. All of those things are pieces to a puzzle that will help you figure out what you're going to do next. What are you going to do on that? So the more things that we can do to give them accurate information and to help them out. I call them the things that we can do to take away that don't aggravate customers and or make things worse. I call them pinch points. Is very important because the one thing that we don't want to do is go out as a professional and take guesses at what we're doing, take guesses at how we're going to fix this. They want to have somebody out there that does something different than what they've been doing. They want to hear things that are different than what they've been hearing on the internet and things like that. Because, Google can be one of our worst enemies sometimes because of everybody's got an opinion. Unfortunately, they don't know who is a valid opinion and who is not, and that's where we can disseminate and help out that customer in that to give them good information. Um, to me, one of the most important things is your documentation throughout your, we call it a workflow, but just once you get out there, what you see, uh, documenting what you see, to me, and it also reduces liability. Believe it or not, when we go out and do a rodent estimate, we have this is 2 pages of our 9-page document that we have that we give a customer so they will see everything that we saw, see all of the problems that we see, and how we're going to fix it when we go through and do one of these procedures for the customer. Because if you don't document everything properly, what you don't document could be the one thing that they say, well, it doesn't say anything about that. So, what you don't write down, they might imply. So it's always good to have everything in writing. So that way it takes away uh, all of those circumstances where the customer said, well, you said verbally you would do this. If you have it all in writing and they sign it, then you have everything, lined up where you can say, well, Miss Jones, I've got it right here. We said we're going to do this, this, and this. So 3 key elements for survival for the roof rats, and it's pretty straightforward. Just like us, we need food, water, and shelter, habitat. So roof rats are no different than any other vertebrates and mammals out there. They all have to have those 3 key elements to survive. And some questions that we can come up with is where are they gaining entrance into that structure? This is very important because if you can't figure out how they're getting in, you could be dealing with an ongoing problem if you never figure out how they're actually getting in to the structure. Where are they getting water? They have to have water just like us. So it is something that finding out, like for instance, here you see how they're chewing through the insulation, trying to get to
Jackie,
drip pan. Yes.
I don't think your slides are progressing.
Um, Okay.
We're still sitting on the original slide.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry. I
So tell me if you're seeing something different. Yeah, I've got a bunch of slides going on here. So let me try going through and doing my resume share. So are you seeing something different there?
Yeah, so right now we're seeing your consider what roof rat management
Yes.
involved. Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Okay. So we just went through, talked about communications. I'm just going to quickly kind of go through there. This is the documentation I was talking about. And now we're at 3 key elements for survivor. Are we there? Okay. Okay. So they need food, water, and habitat. So uh, again, trying to find out where these um, rats are getting into the structure, um, where they are getting water, and where are they getting food. Because a lot of people, uh, will go up to an attic and they'll see that they're living in the attic and they think that they are just staying in the attic. Well, that's usually never the case. They're always exiting the structure so they can have food and water. They might bring up a few or a little bit of cache of food that they can have up there, but they can't just totally sustain themselves unless it's a really weird circumstance. So, the biggest thing you need to answer is why are they there? So, if they are there, there's a reason. Generally, and most of the time, our attics serve as an absolute perfect place for them to live. One of the things that uh, just about all rodents deal with, believe it or not, is heat loss. So when they get up into our nice warm attics and such, they'll find perfect little uh, places to go and live very comfortably up there. Even in the summer months, they can find ways to survive up there, even in that heat, and find little areas where air conditioning is getting in somewhere that makes it livable somewhere up in that attic, and they can seek those places out. They can just about always find water up in an attic just because of air conditioning systems, from sweat coming from the evaporator lines or the drip pans up in the attic that might not be functioning properly. So that's usually why they're there. So it's trying to figure out, are they nesting, sheltering, other things up there. So um, sometimes all you have to figure out is maybe you can alter or change something that they are up there for. So whether it's habitat, food availability, water access, or some type of a behavioral alteration that you can do that can actually make them not want to be there anymore. So those are all things to consider. So the inspection process is always important because that gives you all these little pieces to the puzzle to be able to figure out things. So, again, one thing that we talked about is allow that customer to explain what they're seeing, what they're hearing, and what they're worried about. Because, ultimately we're there because they have gotten to the point they cannot take care of it. They need you to take care of it. So you need to listen to what they're saying and then try to address all of those things, and evaluate all that information. And then look, explore with all your senses. What does that mean? It's looking at everything, observing everything, smelling everything, hearing everything. So it's something that everything that we do, we want to look and see what's going on. Well, the inspection process, you know, every rodent is going to leave an evidence. Um, it's something that, of course, the most obvious things are going to be the droppings themselves. You know, a lot of times we're dealing with what the animal leaves behind, not the animal itself. You know, because when we first open that attic door or go into that garage, first thing they do is they run and hide. So you're not going to see them most of the time because they're very good at surviving. And by that time, they've probably dealt with the homeowner, disturbing them, so they know when to run. So all you got to do is follow the trails. And the trails are basically all the leavings that they leave behind. You can see this picture on the right that is some footprints. Now, that could be kind of deceiving, but if you can look at the toe pads, you can kind of disseminate a roof rat foot. Now, understand they can spread out um, that foot pad just like we can spread out our hands. So your toe marks can be very close together or very far apart. And some people kind of get a little confused when they see some of these bigger areas or bigger toe pads and think, oh, well, we've got a squirrel. Well, believe it or not, a rat can spread out its toe pad pretty wide sometimes, and they do that for stability. But to me, more so, look at the toe pad size will help you out to figure out what you've got going on there. Some of the identifying characteristics for the roof rat, large ears. So just remember where these things live. They typically, in the wild, they're going to live up into trees and areas where they're avid climbers too, or high spots. So they're adept at listening for predators and such. They've got very large eyes. They've got actually pretty good eyesight for a rodent. That helps them see. You can see other rats like Norway rats that don't have really great eyesight or hearing, and so you can see they have smaller eyes and smaller ears. So uh, to me, the one big difference is they have a more elongated triangular head. And if you were to look at a roof rat versus a Norway rat, to me, the roof rat is actually a good looking rat, if there was such a thing. They're very slender and stealth in shape, and kind of bullet shaped, where the roof rat is kind of has a blunt snout and larger head and body. To me, they're just not a pretty rat, if there ever was one. But we can also see some characteristics. They have that slender body, and that tail is probably the biggest telltale. Yeah, that's a good joke. Uh, to tell what you have there, because the tail is longer than the body. They use that tail. Just remember, they're avid climbers. It is a rudder for them to help them in the climbing process. So it helps them navigate as they're going around. If you were to cut the tail off, they probably would not survive long because they have to have that to help them in the climbing process. So some of the behaviors, they are avid climbers. They will always have 3 to 5 contacts at a time as they climb. So it helps them get over all sorts of different surfaces. Um, and typically they will find construction lines to come up, whether it's going up a fence, going up a gutter, going up the air conditioning lines. Probably one of the biggest things that you can tell if you've got uh, a rodent going in along air conditioning lines is the piping insulation gone, because they love digging those claws into that pipe insulation. And as they do that, parts of it start to degrade off. And then when it gets to the point like here that you see on the right, that it's the pipe insulation is gone, that means that they've been going in there a long time. So um, they do seek out shadows because they, even in the dark, they will do that because, again, one of the biggest things that they try not to do is get eaten by something else, because they are a very great food source for a lot of birds and prey and raptors that are nocturnal, and a lot of other animals. So when they get out and about into the away from their protected habitat, they are fair game to get eaten by a whole lot of different things. So here's a video of a roof rat. And I'll hit it again. You can see how it has a very fluid moment, or fluid movement. I'm gonna go to this next one, and this will loop around. Uh, as you can see, it's very cautious. A lot of times, as it moves, um, uses that tail. You can see it's spread all the way straight back, because it kind of helps them kind of feel, the surfaces that it's on as it's walking along on here. This was an attic that the homeowner had placed a bunch of little live traps, and she couldn't figure out why they weren't ever touching them. So it's something that live traps are, in my experience, just a waste of time when it comes to trying to trap roof rats, because they just don't have an interest in going into them. So um, one thing that you can look for are travel runs. It's something that when they go on a travel run, they're going back and forth on it. You're going to see the areas. You're going to see the droppings. You're going to see the urinations. You're going to see the marks as they go through there. Now, one thing that we see a lot, we do a lot of cell tower sites, and they will get up into these electronic boxes, and in their nesting areas, they will have a lot of rodent droppings up in there, and they will urinate on these droppings, and it just becomes this big matted mess. And for whatever reason, uh, they uh, they like that, and it very much tells other rodents that this is their spot. So one of our most common evidences that you can see here is sebum. Sebum is humans and rats all have what are called sebaceous glands, and if you ever knew that kid in high school that never washed his hair, that was all oily and nasty. Well, that was the sebaceous glands, wicking that oil down the hair follicle. Then they walk over a surface. It rubs out onto the surface, that oil, and then the dirt in the air actually adheres to that oil, and then you got the rub marks, or some people call them grease marks, but that kind of shows you where those travel runs are. So looking for those evidences that will tell you, where are they moving? How are they traveling? Where are they traveling? So to give you, and it'll also tell you when you see things like this, why would they be going here constantly? So there's usually a reason, and it might be a drip pan because there's water in it. So looking for those evidences and putting those puzzle pieces together to figure out what they're doing and why they're there. So, of course, the one thing that we deal with are conducive conditions that the customer has, bird feeders, pet foods, recycling areas, and it could be composting areas. All of these things serve as food sources for rats. And one of the things that I always tell customers that when they decide to put those squirrel and bird feeders out there, I tell them, yeah, they do serve well as a bird feeder, but understand at night they turn into rat feeders. So usually that picture will help them uh, make that decision on, how bad do I want to feed these birds. And personally, from the wildlife side of it, I tell them that this is a unnatural food source for them. It's something, when you provide unnatural food sources, that means you have to do it all the time. Because when you acclimate an animal to feed all the time, it's just like people that uh, I don't believe why they do it, but feeding raccoons. You continue to feed a raccoon, it's going to continue to come. And I've seen all the videos where guys sitting there feeding hot dogs to all these raccoons, and it becomes an unnatural uh, food source for them that really doesn't do them any help, because now they or have abandoned how they naturally get food on that. But anyway, that's one thing that we contend with are these food sources. Again, tree limbs in contact with the roof, give them such an easy way to get onto roofs, and you certainly need to make sure these are trimmed off. Whether that's something you offer as a service to the customer or you make sure they get it done, to me, that needs to be done as a part of your control method as you're going through this. So, well, what if you have the situation? Well, if the customer refuses to make any environmental changes, they're not going to trim that off. They're not going to quit feeding the animals around the house. To me, that's where you need to first figure out, will these conditions that are there going to cause failure to your service? And so you need to understand, if that customer won't change anything and you make the determination, I will not get rid of this population, then you need to make the decision whether you need to walk away from this job or tell the customer this will not work. Now, I know a lot of people say, "Well, I'll just go ahead and do it and see if it will help." But I will warn you away from that. Here's the reason why. If this customer says, "I'm not doing nothing," and just do what you can, here's what's going to happen. Your controls that you do, all your professional things that you try, are probably going to only work nominally. It won't do any good. And then once that time is over with that you've done, all this customer is going to see, well, that didn't do any good. And rather than looking at themselves for the conducive conditions they didn't correct, they're going to look at you and say, they don't know what they're doing. They can't get rid of it. So you really have to make that determination and make that dividing line with that customer and tell them, if you don't get this fixed, you will not get rid of these rats. So to me, that's a very key communication. because I can guarantee you I have walked away from a lot of jobs because the customer felt it was better to feed the wildlife out there and such, or not clean out food sources that were in a garage or in a back patio or something. They were going to continue to leave heaps of pans of dog food on their back porch and expect me to be able to come in and fix this without making those environmental changes. So it's a very important decision that you have to make when making these communications to the customer, because um, I will tell you, I've done enough of those jobs to tell you that to me it's not good for anybody. uh, yeah, you get your sale, and I get that, but to me, when it does not take care of their problem, they're always going to look at, you're the person I hired to do this, and it didn't take care of the problem. So, just want to throw that out there, that that can be a problem for you later on. So I wanted to show you a real scenario where this was a house in a very nice neighborhood that we kept having problems. If you look at the top left, you see this house with this little lap pool there, and to the left there, towards the back, is we kept having constant roof rats. They would travel down the fence and get into this person's, and they kept digging into the pool heater uh, to get in there, and I just could not figure out, where is this constant flow of rats coming from. Yes, we were doing all the controls outside to take care of it, couldn't figure it out. Finally, I decided to deploy a drone and try to figure things out on this. So this is going to kind of go back and forth, but I'll try to walk you through as we go through it. So there's the lap pool there. Looking in the different people's backyards, and I'm trying to figure out, where is this giant food source that all of these rats are coming from. As you can see, everybody's yards look very clean and such here. But we're fixing to come back and zoom down a little bit. But as you can see, don't really see much of anything as we come back to our house over here. So we're going to come up and we're going to come back down and turn around over here. And so what's going to happen is we're going to figure out, I'm sorry to get you all turned around here, but now we're going to come down. So at the top there, you see that real, that cage looking thing at that top center with all the sticks and things coming out. Uh, we found out that that was a composting area over there that had recently uh, been cleaned out and distributed, but they had a huge compact composting bin over there. Um, and so that was contributing to this rat population. They were feeding rats back there, and then for whatever reason, they decided to come down the fence to get uh, the warmth out of this pool heater. Now, if you look at the very bottom center there, you can actually see the fence there, and you can see a rodent box up there on the top rail that we were trying to control them as they were traveling down the rails. But this is the things that you can run into sometimes, and unless you really put some effort into it, a lot of times you're just not going to figure out where all that's coming from. So entry points, finding out where these things are coming into the house. Of course, you can see around door gaps, especially garage door gaps, roof returns, or soffit returns, however you want to call it. and that's where a soffit returns back to a roof area. You can see is kind of the vernacular on that, and they'll gnaw through that. And then sometimes you just have open holes that go from, let's say this is a garage, and have an open hole up into the attic, which provides a very nice way for a rodent to jump right up into that attic. This is probably one of our number one places I think that everybody experiences, which is the escutcheon plate where the air conditioning lines go into the wall. It's something that these gaps that are in there, offer a very easy climbing area for them to go up that wall. They like it because they can get on that easy grip insulation foam on those pipes and go right up that wall. So let's kind of get into the exclusion part of it. So first off, should you do it? Because trapping and baiting and all that to get rid of the rodents is one thing. Sealing them out is, to me, introduces a whole new skill set. There are decisions you need to make before you go into exclusion. Um, Exclusion work sometimes requires being in high places, getting up on a roof, and along those roof returns and such. Um, it requires installing and doing a little bit of custom fabrication with professional materials. I'm going to encourage um, each and every one of you to look into using professional materials, not using something that you can go down to the hardware store and the average Joe Blow customer. Well, I can go down to the hardware store and get that cheap hardware cloth. So I think using professional materials sets you apart in the exclusion work that you do, because it's something that you want to be able to tell them, this isn't just me sealing this hole, as it's using professional exclusion materials on your home. It doesn't do anything but keep these animals from penetrating back into your living spaces. So it does require some special equipment and training. It doesn't have to be a lot of expensive stuff, but it does require figuring this out. And I will say, this is the one thing, probably 5 years ago, I joined NACOA, which is the National Wildlife Control Operators Association. And it was very beneficial because their exclusion that they do is it's literally next level stuff. The things that they use and such, it's something that it will show you a whole next level of how to do exclusion on houses. And you have to have the knowledge of where these animals are entering to know where you need to be doing exclusion, because one of the things that you might be doing is you might seal up one place, but there's another place you didn't seal up because you didn't recognize an animal could get to it, and it can cause failure in your job. So and just to tell you, expansion foam is not exclusion. Expansion foam is nothing more than something that will block air and moisture sometimes, but it does not keep animals out. I will say that was the one thing that I found out when I joined NACOA. Kind of one of their big jokes is people who use foam to seal up holes. So anyway, that's just one thing I want to encourage you. Don't use foam. for anything, use professional exclusion products. So some of them that are out there, Exclusion Pro, Rodent Exit um, makes a product. Exclusion Pro is another one. So some of these require having some pretty professional metal brakes and such, and some don't. One of them I like using is Exclusion Pro because you can literally bend it by hand. You have to have a really nice pair of snips to use it. And such. But some of these other products like Pest Block, you will have to have a small metal brake to utilize that. And just to kind of show you, uh, what it can look like. This is uh, an, a scutcheon plate at HVAC, and so we formed it around these lines and screwed it in, and it is screwed in so that way if the air conditioning tech ever has to take that off, that hopefully they don't just rip it off and such. That's one thing I do communicate to a customer. If we have a situation like this, we tell them don't let those HVAC techs just tear this up. This is made to come on and off, so that way it seals it back up. And also, I would tell them if they ever do take this off, have us come back and check it and make sure it was installed properly, so they didn't leave a big gap somewhere on that. So this is just kind of an example of that. And by the way, this is Exclusion Pro. So any place where you cut it, it leaves an incredibly sharp edge to it, and a rat will not want to try to skinny through that. It will cut them up. And one thing that's kind of unique about this screening product is not only galvanized, it's galvannealed, and that means it's a penetrating galvanizing process. So even when you cut it, it will not just rust out on you. It's also powder coated. I'm not here to sell this. I'm just kind of giving you a couple of things, my observations in using it. Here's another example where, I dealt with, this was hardy plank. They didn't have a true escutcheon cap over it. So their material does come in white and black, but you can also spray paint it to match on that. So it's just a couple of examples of where they go in and out. So soffit returns, again, one of their most favorite places. This is another example of putting the material in that to, the biggest thing people try to figure out, why do they keep going through there? Usually there's always a gap, and there's always a little bit of airflow coming through that, which makes the rodent want to get through that because they know there's something good in there. What these angles provide for them is kind of a fulcrum point to arch their back and gnaw through them. So it actually helps them to be able to gnaw through with that angle. So by putting that screening material there, it will stop that gnawing in there. Also on the outside of the fascia, they don't gnaw through those as often, but again, we'll do both sides of it to make sure they don't gnaw through that also. Trapping. So, I know everybody has different traps they use. We've got all the clamshell ones and all the different types of traps. I'm still kind of old school. I like the old Victor M326s. I like the the bait paddle that's on this particular um, trap. I don't like the little copper ones at all, but you can kind of adjust the sensitivity to them. But when placing traps, the biggest thing is knowing where to put them. You need to you need to put them in areas where the rodents are, obviously. So so putting them in the travel paths is always good. Don't overbait your paddles. I've seen these paddles absolutely covered in um, peanut butter, and I'm just going, oh my gosh, they can lick that thing for months and not get down to the paddle. So one of the things I like is you see on this paddle, it has a little well right there by the trigger. I like to fill that little well up so they will sit there and lick that down. And as they lick it down and try to get to the bottom of it, hopefully they will push that trigger down and set it off. So, in case you ever wondered what the names of the particular parts of uh, a rat trap are, the bail that I've always called the bail, that's called the hammer. And of course, where the bait goes is the trigger, and the hold bar is what holds the hammer back. So, yeah, just a little piece of trivia. Probably won't do anything, but just give you some names. Okay, putting traps in these travel runs is important because if they travel in one area, you want them to pick up that scent of the bait that's on that. Um, consider directional placement. So if they've got this thin little board that they're traveling on, being able to turn it one way or the other, or have two that are facing opposite directions, is important to basically, get them coming or get them going. So, one thing that you need to always consider, it doesn't matter what type of a trap uh, that you use, there is a ton of kinetic energy that occurs when these traps go off. So you need to consider, where is this trap going to end up once it triggers, because you don't want it flopping into another one of your traps. You don't want it to, if you put it up in an area that's, over by a fur down in either a bathroom or a kitchen, if that thing goes off and goes down into this wall void, you need to consider that, because it is no fun trying to fish these traps with a catch out of these areas like that. So kind of think about that when you're placing these traps. Of course, now we have a lot of technology. We use technology, the ERMs, which is the electronic remote monitoring. Everybody's got different ones. What you're looking now is a dinosaur uh, with Active Sense. They have now been sold to another company, but the point is the same: as when that trap goes off, you need to know about it. If you don't use the ERMs, you need to have something. We had a procedure where, when we did an initial installation, we were set up 3 appointments, 1 to 3 days apart, automatically. And sometimes we had a lot of wasted trips because they didn't touch them for 2 weeks, or maybe they didn't touch them till the third trip. So by having ERM, we can know what's going on in real time. Of course, you've got the technology of showing that. Of course, Skyhawk, I think, is going to be a big one that enters into the scene since they the one advantage I will say that Skyhawk has is all of their hubs are battery and their sensors are all battery, double A batteries. So you don't have to. I know one thing with Active Sense, you those $30 sensors, you were throwing them away at 2 years because when they went dead, you couldn't do anything about it. So, that's the great thing about these is you can just trade out the batteries with plain old double A batteries. And they have that accelerometer in there that, whenever it moves, it will send you um, the alerts. This is kind of you can see their app and you can name everything. And it's actually, to me, a little bit gives you a little bit better information than even Active Sense. So it gives you a lot of information about that. So anyway, so that's a good thing. Okay, getting on to baiting. We're about to finish up here. Biggest thing is put them in areas where you're going to get uh, the rodents traveling in conducive areas. So always consider where you're putting them in such, and if they're traveling on fences, put them on fences. So it's something that it does require a little bit of extra securing if you put them up on a fence, but it is something that don't discount that these rats get on circuits sometimes in a neighborhood. They'll go to Miss Jones over here for cat food, and the neighbor across the street's got something else. So having that control device in those areas, I think, is very important. We only do baiting outside. We never ever put rat bait inside a home when it comes to rats because there is nothing magic about rat bait. They eat it and they die. And there is no way to know where they're going to die. And usually they always die in horrible places. And then you're left with, trying to find that thing, and the homeowner is having to deal with the stink. Uh, Here is a great bad example. This is all concrete at the front of a store, and why is a rat going to be up there? Yeah, why would they be in the front of the store when they can be around the back where all the great stuff is, like the bad door seals and the dumpsters and things like that. So don't waste a rodent bait station in a place where you will never ever have a rat go to them. So, but follow-up inspections are important. Uh, you know, uh, Proper preparation yields results. So it's something that you know when you do things right, you're going to see the results of it because they can wreak havoc. This isn't a kitchen of a home that they were feeding on olive oil for. We know a man went into the hospital and they had been feeding on this olive oil for at least a month and such, and they just blew up in population on this poor guy. So, but anyway, uh, being able to uh, properly identify where rats are and how they get in is always important. And then, be the resource for that customer of being able to tell them, what you see and how you're going to fix that. So I think that kind of brings it to an end. And Jamie, if there's any questions I need to answer, I'll be happy to try to help out.
That was great, Jackie. Um, on one of your RBS placements, you had zip ties on your stations. Is that something that you make it as a common protocol on all of your exterior station?
So, no, but we do on the easy secures. Uh, Personally, if you look at a easy secure, those lids pop open. So I don't like the locking mechanism on them. We've since gone to the Evos, but we still got a ton of easy secure. So yes, we make it protocol to zip tie them.
Okay. I love the hammer. I have to admit I didn't actually know. I guess you said you were calling it the bail, but
Yep.
I feel so much more educated now knowing the hammer, trigger, and hold bar. Now I can be a professional.
Hammer time. Yeah.
Right. Um, so Brian had brought up the fact that the Get Bent Academy is coming to Houston after the NACOA Show Expo in Houston. So that might be something. And thank you, Jamie Claire, for putting that um, PDF there in the in there for everybody.
Huh.
That was great, Jackie. Fantastic.